Hello chess lovers, Suren here, and I have a fantastic game for you played between Garry Kasparov and Tigran Petrosian. The game was played in 1981 in Tilburg. Now let's see how the game went on. Kasparov had white pieces and he started the game with d4, d5 by Petrosian and c4. Kasparov goes for Queen's Gambit, d takes c4, we see Queen's Gambit accepted. By capturing on c4, black surrenders the center and white will try to seize space in the center and use it to launch an attack on black's position, while black will try to weaken white's center pawns by playing c5 and c takes d4. Knight f3 was played, knight f6, e3, bishop g4, and white is winning back the lost pawn, e6, h3, bishop h5, black is still keeping the knight pinned, knight c3, a6, and g4. Kasparov is unpinning the knight, and after kicking away black bishop, he is bringing his knight on this active e5 square. Knight d7, knight takes g6, h takes g6, and bishop f1. By bringing back the bishop on its initial square, Kasparov wants to bring it on the long diagonal and put pressure on black's queen side. Also, this bishop can successfully protect white king. When Kasparov made this reverse move with his bishop and stood up from the board, Spassky approvingly slapped him on the shoulder. A good move. c6, instead of playing c5, Petrosian is placing his pawn on c6 square, which will later block the bishop's diagonal. Bishop g2, queen c7, white castles kingside, bishop e7, f4, knight b6, now comes g5, knight d7, queen g4. Of course, Kasparov is playing very actively and is trying to gain as much space as possible, and Petrosian castles queenside. We have opposite side castlings, and this is going to be a very sharp game. Rook b1, Kasparov wants to organize a quick attack on the queen side. King b8, a prophylactic move by Petrosian. b4 was played, knight d5, knight a4, and f5. A strong move by Petrosian. Actually, Kasparov was hoping for knight takes b4 straight away, and then playing bishop d2 and then e4. But after knight a4, Petrosian first played f5, which at some point will neutralize e4 threat by white, and only after queen g3 Petrosian won the pawn on b4 square. Of course, this is a risky decision because with his last move Petrosian exposed his queen side. Bishop d2 was played, knight d5, rook c1, king a7, queen e1. Now Kasparov will try to locate his forces on the queen side. Bishop a3, rook c2, queen d6, rook b3, queen e7. Petrosian is freeing the d6 square for the bishop. Queen e2, rook b8, queen d3, bishop d6, knight b2. The knight on the rim is dim, that's why Kasparov is going to bring his knight on c4 square, and also Kasparov allows this a pawn to march forward later. Rook c8 was played. Actually, Petrosian's defense looks impregnable. Knight c4, bishop c7, a4, and a risky decision by Petrosian, b5. Actually, Engis don't like Petrosian's move and think that this is weakening black's queen side too much. Engis suggests another waiting move, bishop d6 in Petrosian style, but in the game we see b5, a takes b5, c takes b5, and rook a2 by Kasparov. He's sacrificing the knight on c4 square, but actually accepting the sacrifice is very dangerous because actually black can simply get checkmated in a few more moves, and black king is getting checkmated. After rook a2, according to Kasparov, he was very proud with his position and thought that the game was already over. But in this position, king b7 followed, which staggered Kasparov, and he asked himself, could such play really go unpunished? Bishop b4 by Kasparov, which is actually a weak move. In his book My Great Predecessors, Kasparov says that Queen b1 was interesting, but these two would not have solved the problems facing white, and suggests knight a3. But those were Kasparov's analyses in pre-supercomputer era, and nowadays computers simply suggest Queen b1 and say that the game is simply over. Now if rook a8, then white can go for this staggering rook takes b5 sacrifice, and then after exposing black king, this is actually a forced line, after which in the end of the day this is simply going to be winning for white. If queen e6, then white can exchange the queens and then come after the pawn on g7. Now if rook e7, then bishop b4 is very strong. The idea is that if rook d7, then the bishop can jump on f8 square and white will target the pawn on g7. Or after bishop b4, if rook takes e3, then white will start picking up the pawns on g-file, and again this is going to be winning. But Kasparov missed his chance, and after king b7 he played bishop b4, queen e8. From here the queen indirectly protects the pawn on b5, bishop d6, rook a8, queen b1, and now you can pause the video and try to find Petrosian's next move. Ready? In this position, Iron Tigran played king c6. Look at this powerful move. Here is what Kasparov writes in his book My Great Predecessors. A fantastic defense. This move which Petrosian made instantly threw me into complete confusion. How is it possible to move the king forward with a board full of pieces? After Steinitz, who had done such a thing? The psychological effect of the b5 thrust and the king march a7, b7, c6 was so strong that I was unable to gather my thoughts and I quickly lost. Here Kasparov played rook a3, a move after which black is getting a winning position. Bishop c7 was better, after which still white can fight. Knight b2, and still white is maintaining a slight advantage. But in the game after king c6 we see rook a3, and here Petrosian simply munched the knight on c4 square. Rook takes a6 check, rook takes a6, rook takes a6 check, bishop b6, bishop c5, queen d8, queen a1, knight takes c5, d takes c5, king takes c5. Look at this king on c5 square. Rook a4 was played, after which Kasparov resigned. Now actually black is a piece up and black king is in safety. There is not much white can do. Already black can move back his king or even play king b5, which is Engine's first choice, and black is managing to defend successfully. For example, after king b5 there is also a threat of bishop takes e3 and the game is over. Though with the pawn sacrifice Kasparov got a very dangerous attack, but Petrosian's defense turned out to be impregnable and Kasparov failed to find a clear-cut continuation in the time scramble and lost the game. This was truly a fantastic game. Thanks for watching. Here are more suggestions for you, and for more games don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next video.